Welcome everybody to the school board meeting, 7 o'clock, December 12th, 2023. I'd like to call to order our meeting. Declaration of a quorum, 7 members present. Welcome to this meeting of College Station Independent School District Board of Trustees. We are elected at large to represent the interests of our community and our state in educating our students. Our mission for our students in this district is success each life, each day, each hour. We adhere to all pertinent laws, policies, and procedures in posting agendas and conducting our meetings. The detailed agenda information was made available to us at least 72 hours in advance, and we've all come to this meeting informed and prepared. We've just completed a workshop meeting where we heard reports and discussed much of the information needed to make decisions in either this meeting or in upcoming meetings. This is a meeting of the 7 trustees in a public setting rather than a public meeting. As such, public comment is included on the agenda at a specific time and requires us to listen rather than take action so as to abide by the Open Meetings Act. We are pleased that you have taken the time this evening to join us. We are very proud of this school district. We thank you for your interest in and support of our students. It's going to bring us to item C1. We're going to administer the oath of office to our newly elected school board members. This will be done ceremoniously and then afterwards officially by Carrie Horn, Notary Public. So I'd like to invite Ms. Kim Iggy up.
Okay, I just want to introduce my kids to you guys tonight. They're the ones who are going to be swearing me in. This is Caleb and Callie and Sam, and they all attend schools in CSISD.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas.
I, Kim Iggy.
I, Kim Iggy.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute the duties.
That I will faithfully execute the duties.
Of the office of College Station Board Trustee, Place 6.
Of the office of College Station Board of Trustee, Place 6.
Of the state of Texas.
Of the state of Texas.
And will to the best of my ability.
And will to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution.
And laws of the United States and of this state.
And laws of the United States and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, I'd like to introduce for place 7, Heather Simmon.
I'd like to introduce my daughter, Sloan Simmons. She is a 2021 graduate of Consol, and my son, Dane Simmons. He's a freshman at Consol, and they're going to swear me in.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas.
I, Heather Simmons.
I, Heather Simmons.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute the duties.
That I will faithfully execute the duties.
Of the office of College Station Board Trustee, Place 7.
Of the office of College Station Board of Trustees, Place 7.
Of the state of Texas.
Of the state of Texas.
And will to the best of my ability.
And will to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution.
And laws of the United States and of this state.
Of laws of the United States and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God. Okay.
All right, we're going to audible and jump to D5 because we would like to recognize our outgoing board members. And we will start with place 6, Mr. Thomas Hall. And we have a plaque here presented to Thomas Hall for his years of dedicated service to the education of our children, College Station ISD Board of Trustees, 3 years of service.
going to do it from the podium. I had this all planned out from the podium so it would make sense, but since I've never spoken from the podium, it seems appropriate I follow the introductory of the students that lead the pledge. Hello, my name is Thomas Hall. I've just completed my 3-year term as College Station ISD Board Trustee. One of my favorite many moments of College Station ISD is the Education Foundation's Senior Hall of Fame, because it allows us, the board, the community, the opportunity to see and hear from the outstanding students and teachers of our district. It is truly a positive and refreshing experience. I would like to acknowledge my wife, 2 sons, and mother, and thank them for their patience and sacrifice, while I missed many of their activities due to my attendance of district meetings and events. As I began my farewell address for this evening, my wife, an 8th grade math teacher, reminded me that the nearly last 4 years of public education have been extremely difficult, and I needed to leave tonight on a positive note. So unfortunately, I had to scrap my plan for a board roast. I have the utmost respect and appreciation for every single employee of College Station ISD. The last several years have been beyond challenging, and frankly, our district could not have navigated these obstacles without a fabulous administration, teachers who care, and staff that go above and beyond. You have sacrificed, but you have triumphed, and I give you my deepest appreciation. Without great people, our district would not be in the top 20 of over 1,000 school districts in the state of Texas. The last 3 years have been interesting. The board has dealt with the federal and state government's response to the new virus, the voter-approved tax rate election, allowing for pay increases, the 2021 and 2023 bonds, providing funding for district-wide improvements, the retirement and hiring of a superintendent, and much more. There have been days and nights of tough decisions, but it was worth it for the students, staff, and teachers. It was my wife's encouragement and my love of career and technical education, CTE, that led me to run for board. Due to my past, I have strongly supported CTE. So much this spring will be the 3rd year my wife and I provide a CTE scholarship at the Education Foundation ceremony. Why do I support CTE? I'm a proud product of agri-science education and FFA. I served as the Alabama State FFA Secretary, earned my American degree, and earned a silver emblem in extemporaneous public speaking at nationals. The knowledge, skills, and experiences gained from CTE in career and technical student organizations provided me with a solid foundation for both higher education, my career, and life. In FFA officer leadership training, we discussed the dash between the years on our jacket. The dash symbolizes the time available to us to lead in our role as officers. As trustees, we must almost consider what we will do with our dash as we serve the district. 2 years ago, as he departed, Mike Nugent gave each of us a dinner fork and told us a personal story, that just like dessert at the end of a meal, the best is yet to come for the district. A parting gift is a great tradition to start. As Aggies say, once done twice, it's a tradition. So my parting gift to the trustees is something to help us focus on the district's unlimited future. Toy Story's Buzz Lightyear iconic phrase, "To infinity and beyond," captures the sense of endless possibility and limitless potential that the future holds. The future is full of challenges, but it's also full of opportunities. As a district, we should always strive to approach the future with the same enthusiasm and optimism. I'll be passing around an infinity keychain as a reminder to you of the limitless opportunity our students' community have before them. Thank you all for the past 3 years, and to infinity and beyond.
On behalf of the Board of Trustees, Thomas, a little memento in addition to take with your plaque. And we've kind of come up with this saying over the last couple months, and it pretty much defines a little bit more about what we do as trustees and just our service, but never underestimate the difference you've made in the lives you've touched. So I appreciate you. We are going to move to place 7, Miss Geraldine Nolan. And for her years of dedicated service to the education of our children, College Station ISD Board of Trustees, 6 years of service.
I just want to say that I feel incredibly blessed and privileged to have served this community for the past 6 years, and our students and our teachers. It's a fantastic place, and thank you for allowing me those 6 years. It's been great. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm still around, guys. So anyone, I'm always here to chat, help in any way I can. So reach out. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. No, we do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hey, y'all, I want to say real quick, this is a tough gig we have. I mean, it's highly paid, and it's awesome to spend at minimum at least one night each month with you guys. So I appreciate your service to the district, to the community, and more importantly, to the students of College Station ISD, because while we don't do the tough jobs that the teachers and administration and employees and all them do, we do have to make some tough decisions sometimes. So I appreciate y'all sticking in there and battling and doing what's right for every single student in College Station. So thank y'all for that. Anything else? Good. All right, we're going to move to D1, Pledge of Allegiance, and I believe we have kiddos from Cypress Grove and College Station Middle.
I'm Piper Cameron, the principal at Cypress Grove Intermediate. I have two amazing yet very nervous students here. They'll introduce themselves. This is Elena and Braxton.
Hi, my name is Elena Leonardton. I'm a fifth grader at Cypress Grove. My favorite thing about Cypress Grove is the teachers feel like family to me. Outside of school, I like to support my dad's baseball team, do cheer and gymnastics.
Hi. My name is Braxton White. I am in sixth grade at Cypress Grove. My favorite thing about Cypress Grove is being an office aide, and the teachers are very nice. Outside of school, I like to play video games and enjoy my family. I also like traveling and being inside of airplanes.
My name is Joshua Ryan. I am the honored and blessed principal of College Station Middle School, and I have with me tonight two amazing knights that exemplify our code of honor. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Gunnar Watson. I'm an 8th grader at College Station Middle School.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Hood. I'm a 7th grader at College Station Middle School. Please stand for our pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please remain standing for the moment of silence.
Thank you.
Stand right there unless your parents take a picture.
All right, also with me tonight, I have one of my fabulous sixth grade social studies teachers, Brandon Ernst, if you'll come up. So this smile right here that Brandon is showing is what he brings every single day as a first-year teacher. You would never know he is a brand new teacher because he is a rock star. We are very lucky to have him. The staff loves him. He's already become a teacher leader on our campus. The kids love him. He runs one of the biggest basketball clubs after school every week at our school. The staff held a fundraiser for our Cats Helping Cats program this past week, where the students were able to buy paper ornaments to raise money, and so they chose one of the teachers of their choice to put ornaments outside of their door. Brandon has over 1,300 ornaments outside of his door and on the wall right now, covering most of the lockers even. So I just had to brag on him just a little bit. His vibrant personality is what makes work special. I'm sure he has bad days, but we would never know it, so.
And I have with me Mrs. Jenna Brown. Come on down. Let's give her a big clap. Let me talk for 5 minutes. So this young lady here is our English department head, and as a leader, she exemplifies the qualities of what it means to be selfless, and that's the word that always comes to mind when I think of Ms. Brown. Anything, anytime, anywhere that she is needed, she steps up far beyond the call of duty. She helps not only your teammates, she helps everybody in the building, myself included. You will see her after hours getting things done, again, well beyond what we've asked her to do, and her too, with a smile that shines brightly, and it just makes our environment and our family that much better. And I am thankful to know you. So thank you for all that you do for our kids and our staff.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Mr. Horak, members of the board, distinguished guests, it's my honor and privilege to be here tonight to recognize the outstanding achievements by some of our CSISD student athletes and musicians. Tonight we'll be recognizing the girls cross country team from A&M Consolidated High School, the girls and boys cross country teams from College Station High School, and the band and guard from both from A&M Consolidated and College Station High Schools, for their participation and successes in the UIL state contests and their respective activities earlier this fall. We'll start with cross country. The College Station High School girls and boys cross country teams and A&M Consolidated girls cross country team competed at the UIL cross country state championships on November 3rd at Old Settlers Park in Round Rock. A&M Consolidated girls finished 13th overall, College Station boys finished 9th overall, and the College Station girls finished 5th overall, with senior Cougar runner Delaney Ulrich leading the way, finishing 10th individually for the Cougar girls. This marks the second year in a row for the Cougar girls to earn a top 10 finish at the state meet. As a result of their success at the UIL State Cross Country Championship, several CSISD runners earned postseason honors at the state level. Delaney Ulrich from College Station High School was named to the 5A All-State team by the Cross Country Coaches Association of Texas, as well as the 5A All-State team by the Texas Girls Coaches Association. Catherine Brunson from College Station High School was also named to the 5A All-State team by the Texas Girls Coaches Association. Alex Stack from A&M Consolidated High School was named to the 5A All-State team by the Texas Girls Coaches Association. And Madison Black was named to the 5A 6A All-Star team by the Texas Girls Coaches Association. In addition, several of our CSISD runners earned all-district honors from District 21 5A coaches, all-region honors from the Cross Country Coaches Association of Texas, and academic all-state honors from the Texas High School Coaches Association. So needless to say, this is an incredibly hardworking and dedicated group of student athletes, and we're proud that they represented their schools and their programs in the district well at the state level this year. So students, I'm going to call your name. If you'll come up to the far side over here to Dr. Harkrider wearing that beautiful Santa suit. It's hard to miss. And get your certificate and then come around and shake the board members' hands so they can congratulate you. And if you'll wait over here and kind of make a group, we'll take a big group picture of all of our CSISD state runners from this year. We'll start with the A&M Consolidated High School girls team. I don't believe she's here tonight, but Madison Black. Give her a hand. Logan Feldhausen. Lizzie Gregory. Hayden Helms. Tilly Miller. Abby Rouse. And Alex Stack was not able to be here tonight, but we'll give her a hand as well. Same with Rachel Moran and Rebecca Moran. They were playing basketball tonight. So give them a hand. And I believe head coach Branch is also coaching basketball tonight. Give him a hand as well. I'd also like to note that Coach Branch was recently named Region 5 Coach of the Year. So give him a hand for that. I believe we have some assistant coaches in the house to represent. Coach Grimaldo. And Coach Hannah. And our two other assistant coaches who weren't able to make it tonight, Coach Sawyer and Coach Soltis. And A&M Consolidated runners, can y'all come around this side? Thanks, appreciate it. All right, College Station Cross Country, Catherine Brunson. Ali De Leon. Jaden DeVerna. Ali Fleener. Cindy Ramirez. Ellie Seagraves. Delaney Ulrich. Anna Bowes. Audrey Wong. And now the boys team, Vance Balabina. Noah Ben. Justin Boatcally. Eli Frey. Grant Murray. Dylan McHugh. Camilo Riano. Noah Sass. Caden Williams. And two more, one from the girls team, one from the boys team, not able to be here tonight. Charlotte Garza and Julian Garcia. College Station High School cross country is coached by head coach Josh Munson. And assistant coaches Peter Martin, Wesley Fisher, and Dayton Isbell. All right, one more round of applause for our cross-country teams. We'll take a big group picture. All right, here we go. Ready? Oh, wait, stay right there. You guys can come up close. All right, thank you guys. Y'all can have a seat. All right, now we'd like to recognize the band and guard from A&M Consolidated and College Station High Schools. The Tiger and Cougar bands competed in the UIL 5A State Open Class Marching Band Contest on November 4th in San Antonio. This was both bands' second appearance at the state contest. The Tiger band placed 21st, and the Cougar band placed 29th in the preliminary rounds. And although they did not advance to the state finals, both bands experienced incredible success this marching season. CSISD bands swept the competition at the UIL 5A Area 1 Marching Contest, with A&M Consolidated being named the Area 1 Marching Contest Grand Champion and College Station placing second. And at the Region 8 Marching Contest, both high school bands earned ones across the board. All right, students, I'm going to call your name just like we did for cross country. If you'll come and get your certificate from Dr. Harkrider and make your rounds with the board so they can congratulate you, and then just take a step over here and we'll get a group picture afterwards. All right, from A&M Consolidated, we've got our drum majors from both bands here representing as well, with their directors and assistant directors. Head drum major from A&M Consolidated High School, Madison Jackson. Drum major, Maddie Balka. Drum major, Sam Rhodes. And drum major, Claire Duhan. The Tiger Band is directed by Steve Fry, Harry Hutchins, and Nikki Newman. All right, now the College Station High School Band. Head drum major, Braden Sinkle. Drum major, Jack Chupp. Drum major, Kelly Ding. And drum major, Joshua Perot. The Cougar Band is directed by John Seal, Michael Dixon, and Laura Nolan. Get a group picture really quick. All right, couple pictures with this camera and then stay there for a second. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Awesome, stay right there. All right, and that concludes our student recognitions for the night. Thank you, guys.
That'll bring us to item D4. We'd like to recognize the artwork here at the back of our boardroom from the students at Riverbend Elementary and College Station Middle School. So make sure y'all check those out as you make your way out and here at the end of the board meeting. Brings us to item E1, board reports. Who'd like to go first?
I missed DEIC this week, but I'd like to highlight some things, our community support. Cooper Allen at College Station High School won the Brazos Valley Symphony Orchestra's concerto competition, and it's very cool, besides the elite level performance, but because he plays bass clarinet, it's usually a violin or a cello, and so it's amazing instrument, an amazing job, really blew the socks off. And I also want to say thank you to the support from the Junior League Brazos Valley. This last weekend, they raised over $100,000 to go towards both Bryan and College Station ISD, but to help with stuff the bus and to support teachers and students. And I think it just shows the support we've got from the community, and we really appreciate that.
So I'll go next. I did go to DIC last week. It was on last Wednesday. And the two main things we talked about, one is what we talked about in workshop again, is the calendar development and narrowing down the 3 calendars we had on the table at that point, narrowing it down to the 2 that we looked at earlier in the workshop. And as we saw, the voting with that should start right at tomorrow, yes, and end right after the holidays. Thanks. And then the other thing we talked about is we got a nice presentation about just an update on our strategic plan, which really how it links to our district improvement plan, right, and how those link together. And it was a nice summary of where we are, and also just some looks at what things are different moving forward, right? What things we've kind of accomplished and where we're moving forward with those. I'm not sure when or if that will come to us, but I'm assuming at some point we'll get a full board update on that as well.
The Head Start Policy Council met today, and we heard a report on the self-assessment from last year, which is part of our consent agenda tonight. And we also heard reports on the renewal of their 5-year grant and their proposed budget for next year. And I think that's all stuff that's going to come to us as a board in January.
Education Foundation, I can't remember because did we cover Grant Patrol last time? It runs together. I think we did. Was it? Okay, yeah. So Grant Patrol, obviously super fun, amazing day where we got to go out and give it a lot of money to teachers in the schools. Students were great, and so that's always a great time. So phenomenal job by the Education Foundation and all our donors and everybody in the community who contributed. 50 Man is coming up in February. You will see a bit of a jump in ticket price, but when they did the homework, we are still the cheapest ticket in town. So it is a little bit more, but again, fundraising event and cheaper than any of the other things that happen like that. Just for everyone's education, it actually has gotten cold finally. Took a long time for it to cool off here, but Chrissy's Closet can always use jackets. You can go to Chrissy's Closet, but you can also work through the Education Foundation and partner with them. They need lots of things, but we ran out of jackets real quick. So anything the community can do, please get in touch with the Education Foundation. They can help with Chrissy's Closet.
Anything else? All right, that'll bring us to Dr. Harkrider, Superintendent Update.
Yes, sir. Just a quick recap. We finished the last school day in 2023 on Friday. So it's been a fast year. We'll be on our Christmas break from December 18th through January 1st. Our staff comes back on the 2nd. Students return on January the 3rd. Just quick update, just a quick recap of our legislative session so far this year. We've had 1 regular session. We've had 4 special sessions. Our legislature sits on the largest surplus in the history of the state of Texas, and we've received no new funding. So it's been a disappointing session. Taxpayers pay for every session that our legislators are there. Our legislators here in our area have been, Mr. Rainey and Cassell have been very supportive of public ed. We just need some other people to fight the good fight with them, but unfortunately, new monies has not come our way. The governor is kind of mum on the word for a 5th special session that could take place potentially in January, but I think when you go through a regular session and 4 special sessions, they are definitely at an impasse on what to do with public ed. The board, obviously, and myself are very united, along with Cassell and Rainey, and the fact that we need to take care of the 5.3 million children in the state of Texas before we worry about vouchers and the school choice scenario. So it's been disappointing. The thing that I appreciate about our school board and our community, we still support public ed. We will do everything that we have to do for our kids each and every year, with new money or without new money. We'll figure it out. That's the great thing about teachers. They're also very resourceful. In any situation, they can make the best out of nothing. And regardless of what takes place or doesn't take place here in the coming months, we'll continue to do what's best for our kids and what's best for our school district each and every day.
If I could add on to, I'd like to point out that the state is pro-education and that they gave over $4 billion to Texas A&M. The difference being is Texas A&M and universities are allowed lobbyists. We as public education are not allowed to lobby. So we rely on the parents and the taxpayers to advocate. It's not just about public education. I'm pro CSISD because we do a damn good job. We outperform on so many metrics, and the money has to follow the success, and we shouldn't be punished for other districts' failures.
All right, anything else? All right, that brings us to item F, hearing of citizens. We have 2 cards. Is that it? Okay. During this time, public comments are welcome. The Open Meetings Act prevents us from responding to speakers regarding items not on the agenda. Comments related to items on the agenda may be discussed during deliberations on that specific agenda item. Please complete the note card and give it to the executive assistant. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Those needing an interpreter may have up to 6 minutes. Each person has 1 opportunity at the microphone regardless of minutes used. Unused minutes may not be accrued by another speaker. The executive assistant will time the comments and alert the president when time has expired. The board asks that those addressing the board refrain from derogatory comments. Our first speaker is Ms. Hawkins. And I believe we're going to use the podium right over here.
You can just adjust this microphone.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Good evening. I'm sorry to hear about the funding, but speaking of making the most out of not very much, good evening. I'm Lizette Hawkins, a member of the CSISD Band Boosters and a parent of 2 Cougar Band members, 1 past and 1 current. My husband and I have been supporters of the Cougar Band and Guard for the past 5 years and grateful for the incredible impact it has had on our boys. I'd like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to directors John Seal, Michael Dixon, and Laura Nolan for their unwavering commitment and tireless efforts. Today, we take pride in the outstanding accomplishments of our band and guard programs, which, as we heard tonight, are gaining recognition statewide. I stand before you today advocating for the addition of more full-time staff in the College Station High School Band. According to a book by Jennifer Rice, it's widely acknowledged that teacher quality matters. In fact, it's the most important school-related factor influencing student achievement. I believe we can collectively agree that maintaining a 100-to-1 student-teacher ratio might limit our potential. If there were an award for achieving more with fewer resources, Mr. Seal and Mr. Dixon would certainly win. As you will hear, when measured against comparable campuses, CSISD unfortunately comes up short. Managing over 200 students with only two full-time directors and a part-time guard director raises concerns about safety, properly educating our young musicians, and the potential for burnout. In contrast to other successful programs in our UIL region and area, the average number of full-time directors is 4. For instance, 5A Magnolia High School, with a band is similar of size, employs 4 full-time directors alongside a guard director. Similarly, 5A Belton High School has 4 band directors and a guard director. The benefits of fine arts may be seen throughout our district as kids demonstrate teamwork and cooperation, hard work, study skills, discipline, and high levels of achievement. Further, it is our belief and goal to leverage fine arts education to encourage kids to think and perceive in many different ways. This statement from the CSISD website resonates deeply. However, when measured against comparable campuses, Mr. Seal and Mr. Dixon have surpassed expectations, while CSISD has, it seems like, overlooked the band programs and not meeting the district's belief and goal of leveraging fine arts education. We respectfully urge you to consider to ensure the sustained excellence not only in academics, athletics, and other campus programs, but also in the College Station High School Band. Thank you sincerely for dedicating your valuable time. We really do appreciate your time, and we hope you to value your time to success and the well-being of our students in College Station ISD. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Mr. Jang.
Hey, Dr. Harkrider and esteemed members of the CSISD board. Thank you very much for granting me this opportunity to address the board. I am Neo Jang, a proud parent of one Rock Prairie Wrangler and with another to soon join. Additionally, I serve as a volunteer member of the Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Greenways Advisory Board for the City of College Station, advocating for community support of active transportation within our wonderful community. And for those of you who may have seen me on the road, I'm that guy with the big bike and 2 kids strapped in front of me. Today, I stand before you to echo the community's desire to foster the culture of and endorse walking and biking to, from, and within our school grounds. Studies have consistently shown that active travels positively influence the development of young individuals, contributing not only to the improved academic performance, but also enhancing classroom engagement and promoting positive behavior. My colleague Kim Top, who has gone in front of the City Council to present on this matter, with over a decade of experience, shared her firsthand experience of coaching the high school mountain bike team, where she witnessed young minds initially grappling with frustration and angst transform and blossom into considerate community members and participants, actively engaging and seeking to contribute and build together. This is just, she said, these would happen just after one season of riding. Kids would just transform. And I appear before you today due to the concern over a small item in a thankfully recently approved bond election that may inadvertently divert our community away from collective positive future. The specific concern revolves around a proposed addition of parking spaces and reconfiguration of drop-off traffic line at Rock Prairie Elementary School. I am thankful for Principal Durant. I saw him earlier in the audience. I thank him for his patience and kindness to hear our concerns over this plan. While these enhancements, as they may be called, may cater to the families arriving by cars and trucks, they unfortunately discourage and hinder those who could safely walk and bike to school. Rather than investing millions of dollars cutting down mature trees, reconfiguring stormwater drainage, and increasing frustration among young passengers, we have an opportunity to support walking families and cycling children. This approach would genuinely address the underlying concern of traffic. When I sought advice from Amanda, a fellow parent at the school and a wonderful neighbor, who despite not being on the PTO this year, she still actively supports our friends who are on the PTO board this year. She offered these valuable insights. She suggested that, out of time?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Jang.
much.
Yes, sir. That will bring us to item G, consent agenda. Those items are H, I1, K6 through K10, and L1.
Move to accept as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Ben, second by Dr. Payne. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Brings us to item J1, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding an amendment to the charter for a long-range facilities and bond planning committee from February 2023 and authorize the superintendent to add alternate committee members as needed. Ms. Strauss.
Thank you, Mr. Horak, members of the board. So if you recall, in February of 2023, the Board of Trustees approved a charter for a long-range facility and bond planning committee. As a result of that hard work of that 48-member committee, in August, you as a board also called a referendum for November 2023, of which we are very grateful to our voters and citizens of College Station ISD that 2 of the 4 propositions were approved. So tonight we would like you to consider amending that February 2023 charter to expand the timeline of that to go into January and February of 2024. This will allow that committee to reconvene and review the results of this election and discuss the items that were in those 2 and decide if there are some recommendations on how the district should move forward or if there is not. Along with that, because we know it's short notice and things happen in life that maybe some of these 48 members cannot commit. So the second piece this time is where you normally approve the list, is to authorize the superintendent to add alternate committee members should we not get enough or decide we don't have good diversity amongst that group.
Move to accept as presented.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Decker, second by Dr. Payne. Any further discussion?
Just a real quick question. I don't think you said on it. Do you anticipate how many times they'll meet?
We are tentatively scheduling 3. If we need them, we may not need all 3. So we tentatively have 3 meetings scheduled.
So while we're talking about the bonds, and this is more rhetorical, I'm just looking at Jeff while I'm talking. This is twice in a row in normal election cycles that we presented very similar bonds, and the voters have voted it down. As a board, have we considered the wisdom of the compelling need to put it on and ask for a 3rd time? And then what are we doing to address that concern from the community? They said no twice.
Well, I think at this point, it's just reconvening that committee and get their input. So we'll see what comes from that.
Yeah, I think there has to be a process. We can't, I mean, the need was identified. So there has to be a process and completely understand the 21 bond outcome, 23 bond outcome. But I think and hope for this committee and the administration and this and that to find what maybe was missed in presentation, whether that be the verbiage on the ballot, whether that be the message to the public. We need to figure out what was missed. And the committee, I think, can come back together knowing that it's still a need, but just kind of do a deep dive without having everything that they did last spring. So I think that's the whole point of extending the charter, is to figure that answer out as it pertains to, and I don't know if the committee is charged with this part or if we're going to be able to provide the data for it, but why did certain people vote for it and why did certain people not vote for it?
That's where I'm confused. We
can't answer the question. We can't change anything. We can't modify anything if we don't know why and what happened.
We voted to, as a community, to expand our capacity at the high schools, but not match that capacity at an athletic facility.
Right, and that's something that I've wondered is obviously Prop A is a huge prop, so there's a whole lot of items on it. But if I had to break it down into different segments and this and that, the community obviously overwhelmingly voted for Prop A, which expands and increases the enrollment potential at College Station High School and A&M Consolidated up 2,700. Well, logically, if you're going to improve enrollment, you have to improve the facilities that go along with that not just the school and the campus. So I think I said it in another board meeting. When I was at Consol, it's the same field house. Granted, we didn't have 2,000 students. I mean, it just wasn't there. But the growth and I know the demographers report, like Josh was even saying, I mean, yes, it's a guide, but it's not set in stone. So, right, and that's what we have to take a look at is the fact that we can kick this down the road. We can postpone it. My thought is you postpone it, you're paying triple what you'd pay now. If we already know we're increasing the school capacity enrollment, why not look at this as an option? And maybe that's where that delivery needs to come across, that, hey, it's a need. It's not an upgrade, it's more of renovations. And yes, College Station High School is 10 years old. Why does it need renovations? Well, things happen. We live in Texas, 111 degrees. Who knows what it could be? I mean, there's a whole lot, there's a list of stuff. So,
And I think you touched on my next question, which is, and I know we've discussed it in previous bond cycles, but me personally, I don't like off-cycle elections, and both on the state and local level, but also a May election, because it feels like people aren't used to it. People know there's something coming November. But I can infer from the extension of the charter, and I know Dr. Harkrider brought it up as a possibility last time, have we considered the judiciousness of putting this bond on an off-cycle year in a non-normal election cycle? What's the compelling need for a May election if we go that way?
Well, I think that's the point of the charge. There's a few things with that. Mr. Horak was at A&M Consolidated, that same field house, a long time ago. He's really old. But he also look at the piece, I think, too, is this is an education piece, and I think that's what Jeff's getting at, is who voted, what makes up that vote, because clearly it's sport education, but maybe what people aren't understanding that voted is that all those other things are continuing the education. It's more than just the classroom, right? And there's, like it or not, there's kids that go to school that benefit from sport, and they like sport more than classroom or fine arts or whatever it may be. Right, and that's the piece that's going to connect them to the education, and vice versa, right? So there's opportunity all over, and clearly the voters said, "Yep, we support education. We're not sure about these other things." Well, all of it goes together, and that's on us. All we can do is educate, but that's exactly what we have to continue to do, especially for the voters who are not seeing maybe what the potential is and how they rely on each other.
I think that's the interesting, because I tend to. And I'm interested to see what the committee comes up with, because I tend to agree with Mr. Decker as to the off-cycle elections. But at the same time, what I wonder, and I'd like them to consider, is if it is one of the only or one of the few things on the ballot, does that give a better opportunity for voters to be educated about these two particular bonds, if that's what we put back out there? And so it'll be interesting to see what they come back with as far as, is it better because of the education piece to do it in May, or is it better to wait till?
And I agree with what Darren said last time. It's not just this sport. It's not a single-use facility. It's complementary to education. General Michaelis the other day made a comment about they're looking at mental health at the campus, and one of the biggest components, like Darren touched on last time, is physical fitness. So we're not doing it for this sport or that sport. We're doing it for the community. The band uses it, the soccer uses it, and the athletics of our kids, because we know mental health is a problem. One way we can affect that is having good, adequate facilities at the capacity we need. Now, the only thing I can think is, and that's where I hope the board will answer, or the committee, we're already behind, to Darren's point. We needed it 5 years ago. Are we losing any kind of cost or pricing efficiency? Maybe Mr. Strauss can speak to that. Was that cost for C&D contingent on doing it at the same time with A and B? And I don't expect an answer now, but that's what my experience with capital projects. There's a lot of efficiency when you crack the big egg, everything from drafting to excavation to pricing on materials. And Lord knows what inflation is going to be like in November.
And on top of that,
the pricing we have now would not be the same pricing potentially in May, definitely not next November, definitely not a year from now. They're working on some of those numbers right now to see if there's any escalators. Just to make it clear, and we've talked about this, this is not an issue that's just being seen in College Station ISD. When the law changed in 19, that certain props had to be on separate propositions. They couldn't be put together. Less than 50% of propositions dealing with athletics or fine arts have passed across the state. So it's a very common trend. Interesting numbers from our 21 election with the athletic package for, I believe it was $7 million, was 47.5% supported. $51 million in November, 47.5%. So the number is not the issue. Could have been 80 million, maybe it was still 47.5%. So that's the interesting part from
that we would like to study from our committee on what they're hearing. We're studying some districts that had failed propositions on the athletic piece, went back out and passed those. So what was the change? What was the engagement to educate, a little bit more, to tell a better story? When people, I think the stereotype is anytime you see stadium, you address that with one sport, football. We're in that facility from June to May, year-round, 5+ days a week. We've got summer conditioning now that we can do. So you have young men and women from every sport that are out there all summer long, or fine arts are out there. And so to paint the picture that is a multi-use facility. Yes, we play football there along with a must other things, but it is multi-use. The stadium is a stigma. It does not resonate with certain population of voters, and that's perfectly their right. But I think if we could educate on the multi-use of that facility and how often it's being used, and on the baseball and softball facilities, how many practice days they lose a year. I'm a former baseball coach. I can promise you I lost anywhere from 12 to 18 days every single year in a season. Times that by a student going 4 years in high school, they've missed over 50 days of practice. So does that affect your program and your ability to win? Absolutely. Your ability to develop talent? Absolutely.
To argue with myself, I think that's critical for me. Back to my first question about the voters, we didn't get more voting no. It's the entrenched, so we didn't really change. They didn't really tell us no twice. We need to get people more in favor.
Well, and that's why, my question about how many meetings is the committee having? It's not just they're going back to say, yeah, we'll do the same thing. Sounds like you will get into these important and complex discussions about the timing, about how much should be on it. Should it be the exact same package, or are there reasons to change that? And I think those are as we're talking about here, the important discussions that need to happen. I mean, there's trade-offs. We could argue on one hand with the capacity or the demography report we just saw, maybe we could back off on some of the, like maybe expansion to the stands, for instance, right? I know the field house is definitely needed, but we're already in deficit, and it's only going to cost more if we put it off. So I'm glad they're coming back together and have those discussions.
And it's also a matter of this potential 5th special session. It'll be interesting for the timing for this committee, because that's another issue is I don't think the public understands. Heck, I've been on the school board for 4 years now, and I don't think I understand school finance. It's until the legislature, until our legislature changes the system, bonds are how these things are paid for. And so that'll be an interesting aspect that for the spring also to consider.
With the sports or stadium athletic bonds in the new system not passing at less than a 50% clip, I would be curious when we do our research of those bonds, what were brand new stadiums and what were renovated, because that could be a good piece of information to kind of know, because we're not building new stadiums. I mean, they're existing. We're renovating them. So we're not trying to have the Melissa football stadium or the Allen football stadium. No, it's not us. Sorry, it's not going to happen. But we have some championship students, not just football, that utilize that. We heard it tonight with the band. So that's going to be the big one, is that committee's got some work, and they've got a short time to do it if they so see it. But we'll see what they come up with. All right, anything else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
You're going to be up here a while, aren't you?
I'm going to be.
Okay.
I'll get a little break. I will get a little break.
Item J2, consideration, discussion, and possible action related to the annual enrollment review and report FC local. Ms. Draws.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Horak. So due to some technical difficulties, we're going to go back to paper. I know. We could not get the projectors to work in between the two, so I did make some copies. There's two different presentations there. One is for one that's a little bit later. If you can pass those around, I think it's very important that you see some of this information in front of you. So at the workshop, you kind of heard the first part of policy FC local, which states that you as a board of trustees want to hear in the fall from our demographer with some data. So Zonda Demographics brought that information to you and shared it. A little bit different information than what we've had in the past. So now this is the second piece, and we as a district will kind of go over that data again, but also bring forth some observations and recommendations. But first of all, FC Local is the policy that we are following here that looks at that annual enrollment review and report. And we also look at facility utilization. Part of that in there is the policy states that the comparability between schools, looking at intermediate and middle schools, it's kind of looked at to have a 15% or less percentage points difference in that economically disadvantaged percentages, and 12% or less for high schools specifically. So you have before you a chart of the current enrollment compared to last year. For the first time in many years, with the exception of course, the first year of COVID, we did have a decline in total enrollment. I know our campuses probably don't feel that. They feel like it's been an increase, but we have had an overall decline in enrollment, slightly by 0.7%. We're going to talk about a few things that may have caused that, but because of that, the demographer is taking a much more conservative approach in the future with some small growth for the next several years. And this one slide is looking at on a grade level basis. Then we look at the specific campuses for pre-K through 4. You can see what we have is based on policy, we're looking at capacity of between 85% and 110%. Gets below 85%, are we really utilizing our facilities the best that we can? Are we being efficient? And of course, over 110%, we're very crowded. So that particular chart is shaded. If it's shaded in green, that means that for those years, it's anticipated that campus will be below the 85%. We got plenty of room for growth. And then if it's red is where it's projected to exceed that 110%. So you can see on this one, Pebble Creek in the near future is the one that we are paying closest attention to. And that's due to mostly the growth in the Southern Point subdivision. You look at grades 5 and 6, again, you have enough capacity between all of our schools when you look at that 85 to 110%, but very noticeably in our intermediate schools that Pecan Trail has more students than the other two. Also looking at comparability between them, there is a substantial or quite a bit of difference between Pecan Trail and Oakwood, and then Pecan Trail and Cypress Grove. Really the same scenario exists for grades 7 through 8, our middle schools. You can see again, plenty of capacity, but we do have more students at Welborn than the other two middle schools. And again, that comparability between them is above that 15% that we would like. High schools, College Station High School is the one that's over that 110%, not by a lot, but somewhat, and it's going to remain there, and that's with its current capacity. Now, one thing we have factored in, I think we started last year, is factoring in College View High School. Before, I think the demographer was just looking at the two comprehensive high schools, but with the expansion of those programs, they do impact the enrollment on those two campuses. You can see on comparability, I'm not sure we could have gotten much closer on these two. They're almost identical in their percentages. So that kind of brings us to some of our observations. Some of this the demographer touched on at the workshop. But the first is we know that the growth rate has slowed some, although he's still projecting us to have growth. There's several factors that have contributed to that. The lower statewide birth rates. He did show you within the College Station area, our birth rates have not really declined much, but statewide we do know that they have. We have some larger graduating classes, 12th grades graduating, than we have kinder coming in. So that's going to cause some total enrollment changes. There's an increased interest in homeschool and charter schools. And there's a lot of discussion on choice with the legislature right now. So I think that kind of brings it to light. The other thing I didn't list here, but he talked about was the housing market. Interest rates as well as the cost of housing has probably affected where some parents choose to live. So that's the first observation. The second is, with the exception of Pebble Creek and Spring Creek elementaries, for the next 5 years, based on that 110%, there is capacity. But I'll bring you to note on the third bullet. Even though there's capacity, we've got some campuses that's well under that 110%, but they have very limited available space. And this is an observation that we have made ourselves. A lot of that is due to programming. Some of these schools, buildings were built a long time ago, maybe not the same programs that they have now. So we do have some not nearing that 110%, but we still have some limited space there. Then at the intermediate and middle school levels, there is, again, capacity overall, but as I brought out, that Pecan Trail and Welborn have higher enrollment, as well as the economically disadvantaged percentages exceed what we would like to have. And then last, College Station High School exceeds that 110%. However, with the passage of the bond in November 2023, this will be addressed. Then we come down to our recommendations, a little bit harder. It's easy to see kind of what we need to do, but what can we do about it? First and foremost, we need to monitor Pebble Creek and see if we can determine if adjustments of some sort need to be brought forward to the Board of Trustees for future years. We would like to review the capacity of our campuses as listed in the charts that I showed you tonight, and compare that to our most recent facility study that we did last year and determine, do we have the capacity numbers correct for our campus for the things that are going on in those schools. And then review that 85 and 110% range that's listed in policy. Honestly, 110% is, I think whenever College Station, we were growing so fast for a while, it's probably all you could build at a time and keep up with that. But it's time that maybe we look at that and see if those percentages are still appropriate. And maybe we need to tweak those and look at 85, maybe we need to lower the 110 when we look at how crowded our buildings are at a lower percentage there. So we talked about the increased focus on choice for parents, and they talked about homeschool as well today. So looking at targeting a communication plan to showcase College Station ISD and attract families to our school district. So we'll be looking at that in the spring. And then continue what we have been doing to alleviate the intermediate and middle schools particularly. And that is, we have a voluntary transfer program for grades 5 through 8 from Pecan Trail to Cypress Grove. And then for the middle school from Welborn to College Station Middle School. So continue that voluntary transfer program, as well as continue to look at and propose differentiated staffing to help accommodate those numbers if needed. So this is not for action, it's just a report to the board. So with that, I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Could you define differentiated staffing?
It could be where we add an assistant principal, you add a counselor. Possibly, if class sizes are different, maybe we bring in instructional aides to help with those numbers for pullouts. Those are just some examples.
How, for example, there's 200 more students at Welborn Middle School versus College Station. How does the administration, the principals, for example, feel about that particular difference? Is it a problem? Is it a potential problem?
Well, I can tell you in conversations that I've had, they do recognize the higher numbers and the difficulty, but they love their students. So sometimes we've brought forth some solutions, and they say, we'd rather we want to keep our students and our families. So it's kind of a push and pull with that, and that's just my perception. I'm not sure if that everybody will agree with me.
It is, Josh, something that we have to look at on a yearly basis as far as administrative help, counseling, what's the ratio of APs to students, and as that number gets further and further apart, obviously they're having to do more with a smaller staff. So that is something as a district that if we're not going to try to eliminate that growth or move kids around, then you've got to grow the administrative team at that particular campus as long as you've got the classroom space to be able to make it work.
And that would get to my second question, which is, I know it's a dirty word, but rezoning. How long, or for example, with Pebble Creek, how long are we going to continue to monitor the situation before we make some decisions?
12 to 15 years.
Yeah. Well, seriously, I mean, because when you talk about rezoning, at least from the last time it was done, and created problems in the community, so forth and so on, it was the immediateness of it as opposed to planning it out for a couple of years potentially, where people can make decisions based upon decisions that the board made. And so I would rather not wait another 2 years until Pebble Creek is busting at the seams, and now all of a sudden we're going to rezone the elementary schools.
Yeah, those conversations would start next fall. We want to see how our push with communications plan, do we get some momentum with getting some kids back that may be left to find an alternative option? What is our enrollment like next middle of September, about when the time it kind of shakes out? What does that look like? Then at that point in time, you can't continue to run campuses roughly at a 55 to 60% capacity when you've got one running, close to 95 to 100%. I understand it's a dirty word. Nobody needs to do it, but there's a productive way, just like you're saying. You get out in front of it. You talk about it early. It's not a major surprise. You do your due diligence, and it's not a rip the Band-Aid off. It's a meticulous process that you go through to educate, knowing regardless of how meticulous it is, some folks aren't going to be happy, and that's just part of the business. But you can't run one at 100% and one at 60%. It doesn't make any sense. So eventually you're going to have to do something. Mm-hmm. So in our mind, the middle of next September, we'd have a good bearing on what our numbers are looking like early for 24-25, comparable data, have snapshot, and then you start forming that process, that thought process with the groups, and figure out what you want to do.
No, I'm glad you said the word, because I 100% agree. I mean, it really is. Nobody wants to do it, but if we need to do it, we can't wait till the last minute. That's really what was so painful to so many parents.
I think it was in my contract on the third page that after my first year, we could talk about that. So after July 10th, we can start that conversation.
But keep in mind, for the same reason we heard the report and the comments that you just made, was we only know it for so long, right? It's only good for a year or two, really, for all the reasons that you guys already brought up. So it's really hard to do that. It's hard to forecast.
Yeah.
So,
in fact, we could
12 to
argue we
15
have
years,
less
Josh.
red on here than last year, right? Because of right? So 100% agree, yeah.
Also, I think, Mr. Raj, you had mentioned looking at FC local in regard to the EDA numbers.
Yes.
Is that something we've got kind of a time frame when we're going to look at that?
I would like to look at it this spring. And I'm not sure about we'll look at all of those aspects, the EDA, but particularly that 85 and 110%. Those two are the ones that are listed in policy that if we think there's some better ratios that would fit College Station ISD, we'll need to bring those forward to you.
One other question on your recommendation. Well, I guess two questions. One, you mentioned targeted communication plan. I mean, is it ever a possibility that we would look at bringing students that don't live in College Station, or is that?
That's not part of this plan.
That's not part of it. I just want to be clear on that.
It's more of an idea of showcasing College Station ISD. There are many families who have never experienced College Station ISD. They've chosen some other option within our district, whether that homeschool or something else. So just making sure that they know what College Station has to offer and can bring them.
And then the other thing we always talk about this time of year is obviously we have certain programs at different campuses. I mean, is that something that you are looking at? Is there some opportunity for some movement on those, or have we already done all that?
We'll have to talk about that as well. We haven't discussed moving programs at this point.
And again, we'll have to decide, would we rather,
You talking about moving programs or showcasing programs?
Showcasing programs.
Like some of our special services programs that we have, some are at all campuses, some are just at a few
Right.
campuses.
Yeah, that'll be another piece that we'll evaluate with the SPED staff. Yeah, and also get principals' input on challenges that they're having. Is what we're doing working? Is there things we need to tweak? Those are all conversational points. Those are also program changes like that are obviously very delicate. If you're switching campuses and things, that's another thing, kind of like Josh mentioned. It's got to be communicated well. It's got to be communicated early if possible. So there's a lot of legwork that we'll have to do early in the spring.
Agreed. So thank y'all for taking that on.
Anything else? Appreciate it. Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Ross. Brings us to item J3, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding a new administrative contract for the principal of College View High School. Dr. Harkrider.
Yes, sir. We'd like to make a recommendation. And before I make that recommendation, I'd like to recognize and thank Dr. Mike Heath. In the back, go ahead and stand up, Mike. I've only been able to work with Mike for the last 5 months, but have heard nothing but great things, and we're excited about Mike's opportunity to be closer with his family. Definitely going to miss him, but we're excited, and we firmly believe that Chris Southard will be able to take what Mike's done over the last few years and continue that to grow College View into what we want it to be. And our recommendation is Mr. Chris Southard.
Motion approved as presented.
Motion by Dr. Payne, second by Ms. McAdams. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Southern.
Familiar face. Chris, would you like to say anything?
Appreciate the opportunity. This Spring Creek is a great place. Great things to do at College View. Thank you guys very much. This is my beautiful wife, Amy, who's our date night tonight. Someday.
Well, you better get on and get out of here real quick.
Congratulations. And Dr. Heath, thank you very much for everything you've done for College View. Brings to item K1, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding the annual financial and compliance report for the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Horak. So it's that time of year. The business office is finally going to put a close to last year, August 31, 2023. And I have with us today Ms. Rebecca Darling, a partner with Weaver and Associates, our audit firm, that's going to highlight their report for you before we ask for approval.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. You should have a couple documents in front of you. One is this lovely annual financial report with our audit opinions in it. It's a 100 plus page document, so do not worry, I will not go over this in detail. But this is basically the deliverable for the audit. So there is a nice hard copy that you have. There is also a required communication letter that I will go over through some slides as well. And then because we are not actually presenting my slides, I think you have some handout of those. So I will keep it brief to some extent, just go over the required communications and the highlights. But before I forget, I do want to really thank the business staff, Amy and Chris and the other Amy, for just all of their hard work. The audit is a process. We come here in the summer, we do some work, and then we come after the books are closed, after August 31st, do some more work, and then there's some follow-up, and then there's some drafting of the 100-plus page documents. So thank you so much to the business staff for all their help. Again, Amy said, my name is Rebecca Darling. I'm with Weaver. I'm your independent auditor. I'm from our Austin, Texas office, and I'm going to present the annual financial report for the fiscal year ending 8/31/2023. So if you look at the slides that you were given, if you look at slide number 2, it does actually refer at the top to the page numbers on the annual financial report. So if you want to look at that 100-page document, these are the kind of page numbers that I'm referencing. But there's actually 3 opinions in the annual financial report. Page 3 is the first opinion. It's a modified or clean opinion. So if you don't take away anything else from this presentation, you did have a clean audit. Again, don't take that for granted. There's a lot of hard work behind that. But an unmodified clean opinion is what you have, and that's on page 3 of the AFR. That's the highest level of assurance that can be given on the financial statements. In addition to that, there's also an opinion in the back. It's called the Government Auditing Standards Opinion. It's on page 97. Because you are a entity that receives state and federal funding and local funding, but the state and federal funding piece puts you under what we call generally accepted government auditing standards. And so you just have really, I call it an additional layer of auditing that has to happen, if you will. So there's a second opinion. It talks about the fact that we have to look at controls, the fact that we also look at not just the numbers, but the compliance, whether it be procurement compliance or compliance with grants and contracts, PIC codes, things like that, things that TA likes us to look at. So that's more of a compliance opinion as well. If you look on slide 3 of the presentation, page 99, you also have an opinion on compliance with major programs and internal control over compliance. So that's an opinion on your federal funding. There's a schedule in the back of that AFR that's called Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. That lists out all of the district's federal funding for the year, whether it be ESSER, Title I, Child Nutrition. So that lists out everything that was spent under those federal funds, and we actually audit that schedule, and we rotate the programs that we look at every year, and that's based on a formula. You did actually get, the entity district did actually get another clean opinion. The major programs tested, and what I mean by major programs is those are the programs, the grants that we audited this year. We looked at the Head Start program, so that's one of your major grants that the school district expends every year, and so that cycles in about every 3 years if it's a clean audit. So that was looked at this year, and of course we looked at your ESSER funding because the federal government tells us no matter what district you are, that's considered high-risk funding, so we're required to look at that every year as well. So those were the 2 programs that we looked at this year. Again, no findings on that. You will see also in the back of the report, there's a schedule of findings and question costs. So it goes over the types of opinions that were issued and the fact that there were no findings, and then it identifies the major programs that were audited. Moving on, if you look at the next slide page, I'll go over just some of my required communication with governance. As Amy stated, I did meet with the audit committee earlier today, and so I did go over the document in general, went over the letter to the governance letter specifically. So this is just kind of a high-level communication with governance. The first bullet point talks about our responsibility as auditors. We form and express an opinion on the financial statements. Again, the district was given an unmodified or clean opinion. We are required to be independent of the district, so we do go through an independence analysis every year. We have an engagement letter. We make sure that nobody on our staff has any affiliation with the district or anything like that. Significant risks identified during the audit. As I explained to the audit committee, this is just part of our due diligence. And the audit requirements last year actually changed and said, hey, you need to be, as auditors, you need to be telling the board and the committee what are the significant risks that you identify during the audit. So like I said, as part of our due diligence, we have to identify some type of significant risk. So there will always be significant risks in an audit. A lot of them are pretty common in practice. So if you look, when we did do the audit, one of the things we looked at is management override of controls. So what that means is an entity can have good controls and processes in place, checks and balances, management's review, good authorization and segregation of duties, but there can always be some type of override of controls, whether someone can make a journal entry or go in the system and change something. So we always look at that. We make sure that really the control environment is good. We look at journal entries that can be made at the year end to change numbers and things like that. Didn't find anything significant or didn't find anything that would raise any concerns. But again, that's just an area that we look at. Another area we look at is revenue recognition. That's one of those areas that governance says you really have to look at revenue recognition. And so with the school district, it's pretty cut and dry, but one of the areas we specifically look at is the state funding, because there's a formula with your state funding, and that's changing throughout the year. We always want to make sure that the state aid that's recognized is your final number, that any due to the states are booked, that any receivables are booked from the state, that any accruals at year end are properly booked. And then we also look at unauthorized or improper expenditures. So that just means any checks and wires going out, we look at those processes, make sure there's segregation of duties, management controls, all of that. Again, these were areas where we consider significant risks. Again, not necessarily something wrong, just areas that we pay a little bit more attention to. We didn't find anything in terms of noncompliance or significant deficiencies there. Qualitative aspects of the entity's significant accounting policies. The district was required to implement GASB 96, which is subscription-based information technology arrangements. It's basically similar to last year, where GASB is asking entities to look at their leases, and this year their subscription-based IT arrangements. And if they meet a certain dollar threshold and a certain longevity over a year, then the entities have to actually book a right-of-use asset and a liability based on those contracts. And so there was some small amounts, relatively small amounts booked for that. But anytime an entity implements a new accounting guidance, we like to point it out and make sure that, and if there was a significant impact, we would talk a little bit more about that. But that was evaluated for the district, that was implemented this year. In terms of estimates for financial statements, there are always some estimates on financial statements. For the district, we looked at allowance for uncollectible taxes. So we always look at how is the district doing, how is the collectability of the taxes, does there need to be an allowance? That number is not very high, but again, we look at it, we make sure that that collectability is there. When you look at foundation school program revenue, again, we look at that. We make sure that that final number is in line with TEA guidance. We also look at any accruals at year end and make sure that those are reasonable and make sense based on what was accrued for year end. That IBNR is the incurred but not reported accrual for workers' compensation. So because you have that self-insured workers' compensation fund, you do have an actuary that actually provides a report on, hey, here's this part of the liability that's based on your claims and your history of your claims coming in. Here's an estimate of claims that have occurred but that have not been reported yet. So that's an estimate. That's part of the accrual number for workers' compensation. Another estimate we consider is depreciation expense. Anytime you have fixed assets on your books, you have to estimate a useful life, and then based on that useful life, you depreciate your assets. So that's considered an estimate as well. And then last but not least, you have net pension and OPEB liabilities. Those are those big liabilities on every school district's books, just on the government-wide statements. Again, those numbers come from TEA. They're actuarially determined, and so there's not a lot of judgment there. But those are the basic estimates on your financial statements. Again, with those, we look at to make sure there's typically third-party reports that support those, but if there were any big numbers where there was a lot of management judgment, we would be talking about that more and look at those a little bit more in depth. But nothing like that for these estimates. All other disclosures were clear and consistent. If you look at the next slide, It's good that a lot of those say none noted. So if there were significant difficulties encountered during the audit, we would discuss that. There were none. There actually were no significant uncorrected or corrected misstatements. And what that means is when we came in and audited the books, we didn't have to make a lot of adjustments to get those numbers correct, which really does say a lot about your business department. The accruals were made, the revenues were trued up, expenses were trued up. So that really makes the audit go smoother. It makes it go faster. It makes everyone more happy. So none of those, no audit adjustments there. No disagreements with management. We also ask management to sign what we call a management representation letter. That's just part of our due diligence. It's management saying, hey, we've given you everything that you've asked for. We've been honest and forthright. We take responsibility for the financial statements, that type of thing. No other management consultants or accountants, no other significant matters. Other information included in the annual report, there's just things to note in the annual report. There are different levels of assurance in that AFR. And so specifically the other information, there's a schedule in the back. It's your school first indicators. It's there, it's a required TEA schedule. It's not audited, but it is there, so we're just required to point that out. There are other pieces of the AFR that technically are not audited, so like the MD&A, when you have management's discussion and analysis, we obviously look at that and make sure it's telling an accurate story based on the audited numbers that we have. But that's really management's, it's not audited. Similarly, the RSI, the required supplemental information, there's some schedules in there that are required, but again, they're not audited by us. Modifications to the audit report, there's just one emphasis of matter paragraph on the opinion. It talks about the implementation of GASB 96. Okay, so that's really my required communications. The rest is just some highlights. If you are looking at the AFR, if you look at page 24, that's actually your general funds. So that's one of your funds that obviously you budget. You have goals for budgeting and revised budgeting. So if you look at that slide, and again, you could look at page 24 of the AFR, you have your general fund, your local intermediate sources, your state program revenues, and your federal program revenues. And then you have your expenditures there. To the next slide, you can see you have other financing sources and uses. You do have extraordinary items on there, gains and losses that net to roughly $272,000. That's your hail and winter storm insurance proceeds and money going out there. And so you actually had a net change in fund balance of a little over $5 million in the positive for general fund. So just wanted to point that out. Again, that's what we call a major fund. That fund is presented separately every year. It's one of the funds you budget to. Some general fund highlights, if you look at on the next slide. If you look at page 20 of the AFR, that actually gives you your general fund balance sheet. So that has your assets and your liabilities. You'll see there that the general fund unassigned balance represents approximately 23%, or roughly 2.5 months of total general fund expenditures. So that's one of the things that TEA looks at, is to make sure that an entity has enough unassigned fund balance. Like I said, the fund balance actually also increased roughly $5 million during the year, primarily the result of increased property values and increased state aid revenues. If you look at page 68 in your AFR, there is actually a budget to actual for the general fund. So you can look at what the original budget was, what the final budget was, and then what the actual was. Again, that's page 68 on the AFR. You'll see that variations between the original budget and the final budget included an increase in property tax revenues of roughly $7.1 million. State program budgeted revenues, and again, this is from the original budget to the final budget, increased by roughly $5.7 million, which includes an increase in contracted instructional services between public schools of roughly $3.4 million, and that was due to refined estimates related to state foundation programs. So as those monies moved, the budget moved as well. But you'll look and see there's no other really significant variations between the final budget and the actual results for the year. So that's the general fund. I did want to point out just a couple other highlights. There are two other major funds that are presented in your AFR. If you look at page 25 of the annual financial report, you'll see the debt service fund presented. And so that's what's on this slide as well. It just highlights the revenue and expenditures of that fund. You can see you had a beginning fund balance of 10.2 and you're ending at 12.6. So you did have an increase of 2.3 million in that fund, roughly because of the increase in your taxes. And then the next major fund that's presented is your capital projects fund. That's on the second to last slide. Again, you'll see the revenues on that side. You'll see heavy expenditures because that's where you're expending for your capital outlays. And then you'll see that fund balance went from 67.9 million to 34. And again, that's because that's where you're spending your bond money to build all your infrastructure and your capital improvements. So as I said, those are just some overall highlights. It obviously doesn't go through page by page, but the AFR is very structured. It's very dictated by TEA in terms of accounting codes. So when you look at school district AFRs, the setup is similar. Are there any questions with what I went over or anything that you'd like me to go over in more detail? I'm happy to answer. I know, I always present it's year-end information. It's old, it's gone. We're already in the next year. But again,
Josh, it's your 4th year, and we can talk about school finance.
On the slides, where's the $5 million increase in fund balance?
I don't think it matches the book. Yeah, I'm confused.
Okay.
On the general fund?
Yeah.
It does, yeah. So if you look, let's see. If you look at page 24 of your annual financial report, that's your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in your fund balance, just for your general fund.
But this doesn't match.
So is there a mistake on the slides, maybe?
I'm confused with the slide, I think.
Oh,
Because
okay.
it says started at 34, ended at 34. Is that, we're missing something?
That might be a,
Yeah, the slide's off, the book's right.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, book's right.
I'll accept that, even though I can't find it. Yes.
And I think
What I
it's
was
the same
pointing
for
out
the
is
general
that,
fund and
yes.
The debt services one. You don't have the change on it, on the slides.
Okay, it may have gotten cut off, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's right in here.
Okay.
I motion to approve the annual financial and compliance report for fiscal year ending August 31, 2023.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Dr. Payne, second by Mr. Ben. Any further questions?
No question, but we got to say thank you to our team for doing such an awesome job. I mean, it's a lot of, obviously, a good bit of money we're moving around, but also a lot of rules you got to follow. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Rebecca, again. Appreciate it. Item K2, consider and act on a resolution expressing official intent to reimburse costs of projects related to the 23 bond referendum. Ms. Rawls.
Thank you, Mr. Horak. So you have before you a resolution that would allow the district to begin spending that 2023 bond funds, particularly the computers that we ordered at the last meeting. They will be in shortly, and so we'll have to be required to pay for those. So we put that amount plus a little bit more just in case. But it does allow us to proceed until we sell bonds. We decided it's the right time to do that, and then we will reimburse the general fund for what it's loaning the construction fund until we get there. So I just ask for your approval on that tonight to allow us to proceed.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Decker, second by Ms. McAdams. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. K3, consider approval of the purchase of 16 buses from Longhorn Bus Sales based on buy board purchasing cooperative contract number 630-2020 in the amount of $2,399,540 using 23 bond funds. Ms. Ross.
Unfortunately, this is not one that we're going to need to use that reimbursement resolution on. The delivery time for buses, we've been told, is up to a year. We're still waiting on some of the last ones that we ordered a little over a year ago. So in order to get ahead of the game, transportation, along with purchasing, have gotten quotes using buy board pricing from Longhorn Bus Sales. These are ones that we did put out on competitive seal proposal about 2 years ago, so we feel like the pricing is right, in line with where we thought it would be. It's going to allow us to keep same or similar fleet for parts purposes as well as maintenance. So we ask for your approval tonight for us to proceed with a purchase to Longhorn Bus Sales in the amount of $2,399,540.
Just to make sure, Dr. Harkrider, there's no affiliation with Longhorn Bus Sales, is there?
Hadn't thought about that.
We got 100,000 off a bus. They're all orange. It's too good a deal. Maroon seats, though. It's okay.
Motion approved as presented.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Payne, second by Ms. McAdams. Any further discussion?
Ms. Ross, I wonder, how many buses left are we that we need to?
I think we're still waiting on 9.
Okay.
And did I see that right? There's backup cameras in these now? I really think I saw that. I'm looking at it. It says discrete backup camera. It's huge.
Might be there.
It's huge. I was curious. It's 2025 bus. I mean, certainly things have changed.
It's a long thing.
Anyway.
And these are obviously just a piece of what was approved,
Yes,
part of what was approved.
yes, we
in
are
the
probably planning on doing them in at least 3 phases so that they don't all kind of age out at the same time.
All those in favor say aye. All right. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. K4, consider approval of a change order to Bill's Fencing in an amount of $11,030. Authorize the superintendent on approvals of future change orders related to this contract in an amount not to exceed $25,000. Ms. Strauss.
Thank you. So in August, you as a Board of Trustees approved a purchase order or a contract to Bill's Fencing. This was adding that recommended type of fencing at Pecan Trail and Cypress Grove. We used the safety and security grant funds for this particular purchase. Kind of being our first round of these, and this is quite a bit of linear feet of fencing. So kind of got into it and decided we needed some more gates to allow for proper entry and exit for those. Both schools would be getting some additional gates at a cost of $11,030. So you approved a specific amount, so bringing forth a change order, but also kind of looking ahead with these being our first ones in order to have us be able to finish those and not stop. I'm also asking that you authorize the superintendent to approve future change orders. It would all be from this grant in an amount not to exceed $25,000, so it will not hold up the project should we find something else that we need to change.
Just to clarify, is that just for these two?
That's just
for these two schools?
Yes, ma'am.
I move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. McAdams, second by Dr. Payne. Any further discussion, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Brings us to item K5, consider approval of the purchase of an upgrade to the fuel management system with Fuel Control Solutions based on buy board purchasing cooperative contract number 673-22 in the amount of $121,185.30 using general fund. Ms. Strauss.
Thank you. So College Station ISD has 2 locations with fuel management systems. One is, of course, out at the Transportation Center, and the other one is back here at the Maintenance Department. Both of those systems have got a lot of age on them. We're having a hard time getting parts to repair them, but also the software is not being supported any longer. So it is time that we upgrade those. They involve the technology department in looking for the right solution for College Station ISD and decided on this from Fuel Control Solutions in the amount of $121,185.30. After the purchase, then future years, the cost is $5,280 annually for that maintenance. But it would be both locations. It would account for all of the transactional data that we need for those buses. That is the fuel, the user, the department, that sort of thing. But it also tracks some diagnostic data on the vehicle and reports it back. So that's going to help our maintenance department easily track mileage, determine when changes are being made, when the batteries need to be replaced. So hopefully help them out in their maintenance as well for these vehicles.
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Dr. Payne, second by Mr. Decker. Any further
I
discussion?
do have a question. Obviously, I noticed this one, you're using it out of general funds. Is it just a new need, or we didn't get it on the bond, or was there some reason that it's coming out of general funds?
Right. We didn't plan on it out of the bond funds whenever we were doing this. So kind of my thought is if I can't manage it within the transportation department, moving things around, that we could use some of that $5 million and bring forth a budget amendment using some of that $5 million addition that we talked to you about on a previous slide.
All right, makes sense.
All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. It drops us down to executive session, and we will have 2 sessions. For all those that are here, we hope you stay, and we'll see you when we get back. But other than that, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, enjoy the time off. All right, we are back in session from exec at 10:08 p.m. And that brings us to item somewheres. Item N1, consideration, discussion, possible action regarding the reorganization of board officers.
I make a motion that we elect Jeff Horak as our president, Darren Payne as our vice president, and Josh Ben as our secretary.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Ms. Iggy and a second by Ms. Simmon. Any further discussion? Their first motion and second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? We have a 6-1 vote. Motion carries. That'll bring us to item O, adjournment.